Today we're really going to cook again, and we're using Grandma's recipe. Today we're making sauerbraten. This is from the Good Mayor's piece. Isn't that nice? And what would sauerbraten be without a sour marinade? And this here is a proper splash of apple cider vinegar. Now it's going to go right into the marinade. And we also want to add something decent. A dry red wine makes it all a bit nicer. Why is sauerbraten actually called sauerbraten? It's quite simple. It's an ancient method. To make the piece of meat last a bit longer, you simply added acidity, just like with game. For example, buttermilk, in this case vinegar, and those who could afford it, red wine. So what we're doing is putting our beautiful roasting pan, which we'll use later, and just adding our Burgermeister Stück. This is about 1.2 kilos. Now we just add our vegetables, our fresh herbs, parsley, washed of course, right on top. But I'm going to chop the celery and carrot into cubes a bit, because we're going to use these wonderful vegetables to make our sauce later. That's why it's so important. They should give off a good flavor. And later when we roast them, we need small ones anyway. That's why we can do this now. That's some quick prep kitchen. Everything goes in there. Allspice and juniper berries, peppercorns. Please don't forget the salt. That already looks like Grandma's kitchen, doesn't it? So let's pour our vinegar on top. As I said, it brings us flavor. And let's take the red wine that we'll also drink with the meal. I've picked out a dry Tempranillo here. Look, it fits pretty well. Just push everything a bit to the side so that it all sits nicely in the broth. And the best part is we have the perfect lid for braising and chilling. And we're going to put this container in the fridge for at least 7 days so the meat can really absorb the flavor. And in 7 days, no, you don't have to wait that long, but in 7 days I'll see this meat again. And then we're going to make a pot roast from that. Look, a lot has changed there. Pot roast looks pretty sour, Carmen. Do you think so too? I think it looks delicious. It looks delicious and it smells great. So here are our little spices. Now we want to take it out. Look, it has really taken on color. We're going to set this little bird aside because we want to sear it shortly. Our fresh herbs. Look, only the leek hasn't really taken on any color, but the celery and carrot have really changed color. We need all of this now for our sauce base, the stock, and also our vegetables. That's why we're going to strain this through a sieve now. Nice and dry. And in here, we're going to sear the roast now. So, before the pot gets really hot, I've already peeled a nice onion here. I'm going to cut them into pieces like that too. It will go in the sauce base, together with the other vegetables later. And I already took out some leeks, and the camera wasn't rolling. And our fresh herbs, rosemary, thyme, and also bay leaf. Of course, we don't want to roast that, it would burn. But it will go back into the sauce later. So, our little roasting pan from Hoffman has now gotten nice and hot. It's coated, but we're still going to add a bit of oil because we want to... Oh, it's already really hot in there. Do you see that? But thank goodness I can reach into the embers as a cook, as you just saw again. And in here, it smells really good. Finally, we also used a good red wine. So, a little pepper on top. That can come off. Sear on both sides. So, let's kick it off. I think that looks good already. We have some color. And the anticipation is rising. So, there it is, our pot roast. Let's add our roasted vegetables right away. Look, here's a bit more time, just like Grandma used to do. We're turning the regular vegetables into roasted vegetables now. Really nice to roast. So you can't really see it well when the celery is still white. The color still develops. It has some roasted bits. And now we're adding the onion. Always add the onion a little later because it burns faster. And also let the onion caramelize a bit. So The onion has already started to get a bit of color. Here, I think you can see it pretty well on this little piece. And now we're adding our tomato paste. Come here, take a look again. So with a silicone spoon, you can reach all the corners of a round jar. So it's really important to roast the tomato paste a bit, because we don't want to make a tomato sauce. We want the tomato paste to help us get a nice brown color. Look, it already looks different now, and it's delicious. And now the question is, as you know from me, glazing and deglazing. So what are we going to deglaze with now? Look what we have here, our stock. We're going to add a good splash on top. Let's deglaze. That's the deglazing. Let's see what kind of power this pot has here. So now we just have to wait for the moisture to reduce again. Why? So that new roasting compounds form on the vegetables, so we get a nice dark brown sauce. So at this point, just a little moment of patience, Yusen. So Carmen, we waited for 2 minutes, but you can clearly see that the moisture is gone. Our vegetables look quite different. Now new roasting compounds can form again. You can also hear it crackling. Don't let it burn, but roasting is what we want. And when it looks like this, we add the next splash of our stock on top. Look, and right away, we have a different color again. We're getting more and more from the red towards the brown sauce. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Then the roast will come back. The color looks great. So we're topping it up again. We've done that 3 times now. We're going to rinse this off really nicely now. And I think you can really see it now. We have a brown sauce. And what is completely missing in this brown sauce is our meat. That means 1 more time. I've now decided, Carmen, I'm really sure about this. We're going to let it reduce 1 more time. Let's top it up, add the meat, put the lid on, and we're done. But now it looks even nicer, I think. It was definitely worth it. Add that 4th splash on top. So our roast is going back into the oven where it will continue cooking for a while. Now I'm also putting my herbs and the leek next to it because you definitely want to keep that flavor. Here comes our fresh bay leaf. Then we have our remaining peppercorns here. Spread, looking out nicely. And now we obviously need to refill with the remaining stock. And since we've already used up half of our marinade here, quite literally, the sauce is just not enough for me. And our meat is practically half sticking out of the stock. What are we going to refill with now? With water, of course. If we were to refill with broth, it would be like carrying owls to Athens. Just pour water on top. We've got so much meat, so much vegetables, whole bottle of red wine. Where's the extra flavor supposed to come from? So lid on. And you can put the actual braising time in the oven now or just leave it on the stove, whatever you prefer. I'm putting this in the oven now, 1.5 hours. In the meantime, let's take a look inside. So 1.5 hours are up. Let's take a look inside. Oh, wow, Carmen. Oh, that looks good. That's a poem, isn't it? Quick, get it out. So now we want to take our tender roast out of here. And we have this wonderful lid here. Look, the lid is still hot. And we're using it here to keep it warm. The oven is turned off. Only the light is on. In goes our roast into the hot lid. It stays wonderfully warm. And now we have our sauce base here. We have a little problem. It's definitely too thin. That's not grandma's sauce. But we want to thicken it now. Our butter. Our sauce is melted here, as always. Then we add our 6 degrees of flour on top and saute the flour in the butter. That's how she got her name. A roux. The advantage of a roux is that when you mix butter and flour at an elevated temperature, essentially all the flour combines with the butter. And we have absolutely no lumps, or at least very, very few lumps in our later sauce, essentially. And when everything is nicely mixed, I'm reducing the heat a bit here. And now I'm adding part of my sauce base on top. And the big advantage now is simply to pour it through the sieve onto the hot roux. 2 spoons are enough to start with. And now I can stir everything smooth. And the best part is, we don't need to weigh anything in this case. Of course, we know that this is 50 g of butter and 60 grams of flour. But for the liquid, you don't weigh or measure anything here, because we just keep going until we have the consistency we want. That means we add as much of our stock here as we need to make a decent sauce. So now we're going to make about 4 small ladles. Stir it all together and let it come to a boil in between until most of the stock is incorporated and we have a classic brown sauce. And this mush that forms at first is intentional, and I still believe that's the biggest problem for all cooks. Many are afraid of the roux because it looks exactly like that. And that's exactly the right way to whip up a perfect sauce. We need to add more broth to that. So then we can add the rest on top and let it drain nicely. And then we have the perfect sauce. If it has a shine and a nice color, then it's good. And here is our wonderful pot roast. And now we want to cut into it. I can already tell how tender it is. This drop here that has settled, of course, goes into our sauce along with this piece of meat. Don't waste anything. For heaven's sake, this is the best flavor here. So, and you can also see that the fibers are running in this direction again. That's why I'm going to cut my roast in half first. Look, the knife goes through it, like butter. And now we're going to slice the pieces. Take a look at it. Super tasty. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I wish you all an incredible time recreating this and a good appetite. Bye, dear ones.